Like many of you, I was quite saddened and disturbed as I read through the headlines yesterday and continuing through this morning about what was going on out on the east coast of Canada. So the latest figures I heard was 16 dead, starting in Portapique and really throughout much of the province through Saturday and Sunday. Now the numbers themselves are meaningless. I mean, we say there's 16 people dead, but um, you know, there are many families shattered that they're bearing grief that they simply don't know how to deal with. So the tragedy is simply immense. It's beyond comprehension. And like many of you, I have a little bit more free time, and so we're all, I think, looking at the online newspapers and listening to the radio and the TV and trying to piece together exactly what happened out there. Now the details are coming forth slowly, and that's okay. The police have a job to do, and it's not to sensationalize this. So they need to be careful about what they release and when. We also need to keep in mind that there are human beings who are suffering out there, and their need to process and get through this is more important than our curiosity. So the details will come out as they come out, and that will be okay. But I think all of us we're asking this question, why? We want to know why this event happened. But I think we're all really essentially we're doomed to frustration on this. Because even if we were able to hear within this man's own words why he did the things that he did, I don't think it would make any sense to us. Or perhaps if it does start to make sense and sounds kind of like a logical thing, then maybe we need to take a step back and consider where we're at. We might be in some trouble. But ultimately, evil will take what evil takes. Evil doesn't need a reason. It doesn't need a motive. Just evil is simply destructive, and that's just the nature of it. It seeks to tear down rather than to build up. And so as we look for a motive behind these killings, we're we're not going to find a motive that makes any sense to us. And I think that this idea that evil is this irrational force in the world is one that is played out over and over again in the Bible. And certainly as we're emerging out of Easter, that really is the whole Easter message, is it not? That bad things will happen to good people. We don't all just get what we deserve, but things are going to happen to us. So we take the very best human being, who was Jesus, who is without sin, and what happens to him? He's betrayed and beaten and killed and disgraced. You know, not just killed, but his method of killing, his execution as a criminal and hanging on the tree and all those things. The very worst thing happened to the very best person, and so we can ask why. Certainly, I'm sure the disciples, when they were hiding in the upper room, that's what they were asking, like, why did this happen? Everything was going so well, and now everything's gone south. But I wonder if we're asking the wrong question. That why is not a question that's going to gain us anything, but instead, I think what we want to ask is, what next? What do we do now? Because in the face of the reality that there is evil out there and that bad things are going to happen to good people, how do we respond in the face of tragedy? Because that's what defines us. We're not defined by what other people do to us. We're defined by what we do, by how we act. So then when terrible things happen, do we get bitter and do we get resentful? Do we take a bad situation and make it worse by spreading our misery out onto other people and doing evil deeds to other people because evil things have been done to us? Or is there something else? And I think, uh, again, coming out of Easter, if we look at the Easter message, this terrible thing happened to the very best human being. And so what was the response? So Jesus answered hate with love. So on the cross, he cried out, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. And even afterwards, when he came back, he proclaimed peace. He talked about peace. That's not what one would expect after you kill a god, that the god would come back with words of peace on his lips. The other answer, of course, is God answered death with life. So we put forth death, and God answered that with life. So now, how do we take that into ourselves? What does that mean for us? Now, we don't have the ability to resurrect ourselves, so we can't lay down our spirits and pick them up again as Jesus did. But we can answer hate with love, and we can answer death with life. And I find it encouraging that this is part of what I'm seeing that's happening out on the East Coast. I'm seeing outpourings of love and support and welcome. And what ends up happening is that instead of saying, because evil things are going to happen indiscriminately and we can't protect ourselves, that doesn't make life pointless, but actually life is precious. And our declaration of the preciousness of life and love and family has to be stronger than the evil that transpires. And I think that's what we're called to as a Christian community. We're supposed to be that light on the hill. We're supposed to be speaking about love, even as bad things happen to our community and within our community. We're still supposed to be proclaiming the love of God, the fact that God will do anything to show his love for us. And so we should be doing anything to show our love for other people. And in this way, God's kingdom grows and love overcomes evil. Now, the evil doesn't disappear, but the love is shown to be stronger. And this is our calling, as we're called to be witnesses of love in Simcoe.